ladies and gents, let's begin here. So we're going to do some Boolean conditionals. I'm going to show you guys 4 ways we can go about doing conditional statements. What a conditional statement means is that we have conditions involved. In this case, for Boolean, it's always going to be true, false, yes or no, okay, black or white, cats or dogs, whatever, right? Peanut butter or ladies. All right, so we are going to start out with something called unary selection, okay? Unary selection. This is where it appears that you have only one option, so to speak. You actually have more than one option, as you'll see, but because of the nature of unary selection, the, like say the true or the false value, depending on which one we want, are really unimportant. Just we only want to provide, say, feedback for just the true statement or the false statement in our Boolean expression. Okay, so we're going to set up an arbitrary variable here called z, and I'm going to request that we input something. In this case, I'm going to want a number, specifically an integer, so I'm going to put int at the beginning here, okay? And I am going to say input, and then I'm going to give a very specific command, okay? I am going to say type the number 8, okay? That's my very specific command. Okay, make sure you end that with 2 parentheses because we've got to close it off since I've used 2 in here. Okay, all right. So what we're going to be requesting of the user then is that they type the number 8. Now, assuming they type the number 8, great, our program is just going to continue running. Okay, but if they don't type the number 8, I want to respond to it. Okay, so I'm only going to respond in the case that they didn't type the number I wanted them to. That's why this is a unary selection. We're only concerned about that false answer, so to speak. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to start using some if statements. We've used them before, but we're going to revisit them now because we're going to have those in order to sort of to branch our conditions, our true versus our false. So I'm going to say if z does not equal, so remember the exclamation mark, okay, and then equal. So if z does not equal 8, I need something to happen. Okay, if it does equal 8, the program just runs and we don't even hear from the program. Everything just goes on. Okay, so I need something to happen. If z does not equal 8, I put spaces in here, but you don't have to. If you like it a little tighter looking, you can do that. So if z does not equal 8, I'm going to print some message to the user. I'm going to print, hey, you didn't type the correct answer or the correct number. And I'll put an exclamation on that to emphasize how idiotic they are, okay? Okay. All right. And then just so we can see what number it is we printed, just to prove it to ourselves, I'm going to say afterwards print z, okay? So if we do print that wrong number, we'll be able to see what that number was. Notice that this is not part of the if statement, okay? So if I type in 8 here, all I'm going to see is it's going to print out the number 8, and everything's great, okay? So it's unary selection is that I'm really only concerned about one thing. If z does not equal 8, I want to let the user know. Okay, so we can go ahead and run that. You guys will need to save that. If you want to save it as what I'm saving things as, it's Boolean conditionals, right? That's the name of our lesson here. And we'll go ahead and run that, okay? So if I run it, it says type the number 8. If I type the number 8, there we go. There's the 8 that I asked it to print, right? If you want to just test it out, don't type the number 8 and see what happens then, right? So I can run it again and whoops, type the number, 7. It says you didn't type the correct number. There you go. So it works, okay? There are times when you're going to want that to happen. Not everything a user inputs needs to be responded to, right? Just imagine if everything you did, like every time you were using Microsoft Word and you were typing a word, it said, hey, you just typed the word, whatever, get lost. You'd be like, well, I know, I just typed it, right? So we don't always need a response to everything. Responses or the sort of the flow of a program can be totally silent. In fact, a lot of times you're going to want them to be, okay? All right, so that's unary selection. And when we're done with this, I'm going to go back and I'll show you how we are going to flowchart these things, okay? All right, now let's do binary selection. Okay, so let's put a hashtag in here, put binary selection. And now I'm going to put a little extra space in there too, just space things out a little bit. You don't have to do this. Okay, so for binary selection, we're going to need some sort of response to both of our conditionals. Binary means two, right? So we're going to need to respond to our true. We're going to need to respond to our false here, okay? So I'm going to do another variable. I'm going to call it n, and I'm going to be asking for a number here as well. So I'm going to make sure there's an integer that's, this is turned into an integer, not a string, okay? I'm going to say input, type a number between 4 and 8. Okay, so I'm giving a command here. Okay, so I'm asking them to type a number between 4 and 8. Move this up for you a little bit as well. All right, so now I'm going to need my conditional statement again, our if-then essentially. Okay, so I'm going to say if, okay, n is greater than, or when we say a number between 4 and 8, does 4 and 8 count or not? They don't count. Okay, so how about this? If n is greater than 4 and n is less than 8, whoops, okay? Notice I have to put n on both. So if both of these things are true, if n is greater than 4 and n is less than 8, okay, put a colon in there, okay? I'm going to say print good job, okay? You did it. You don't have to do that necessarily. I'm being a little crazy here. I'm going to put the, I'm going to actually include the number in there. I'm going to say n outside of the quotation marks is between 4 and 8 end quotes. Okay. All right. So there's my first condition. That's my true statement, right? If n is greater than 4 and n is less than 8, we're going to say, hey, good job. The number you selected is between 4 and 8. Okay. Now, if that is not true, I need my false conditional here. So I'm going to use the else function. I'm going to say else, and you don't need to provide any information here other than else. So basically, if that is false, it's going to automatically jump down to the else statement. And I'm going to say print no, comma, I'm going to put the in there again, is not between 4 and 8. Okay, so that's my binary. It's an if-else statement. Notice I didn't have to do an else necessarily, right? If I didn't care what they typed in, I could just forego that else, in which case it's a unary selection instead of a binary selection, right? Okay, so we could go ahead and run that then if you want to, guys. And you're still going to be asked to type the number 8. I'm going to go ahead and type the number 8. Now it says type the number between 4 and 8. 7 is between there, right? Let's see if it works. That should be right. It says, hey, good job, you did it. 7 is between 4 and 8. Okay? If you want to run it again, you can. Try it. Whoops, try doing it the wrong way. Type the number 8. I'm going to type 5. You didn't type the correct number. Type the number between 4 and 8. Let's hit 3. It says no, 3 is not between 4 and 8. Okay? All right. So that binary works, right? We can respond to situations here. All right. Now what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to take a look at a nested conditional, okay? So sometimes you want more than just a yes or no answer, right? You need more than binary. You might have lots of different sort of outcomes depending on what's inputted. We can still do that with Boolean conditionals. We just have to either branch, okay, or nest our conditionals, or we have to sort of chain them together. So it's easy to do both together at the same time. I'm going to do two distinctly different ones, but you guys will see that it's possible to have a nested and a chain conditional statement all in one. Just sort of, you can marry them all together. Actually, you can marry every single one of these together. We're always pretty much going to have binary selection. But you can use unary selection, nested, chain, all together. So let's look at a nested conditional. All right, so let's do nested conditionals. All right, I'm going to make a variable g. I don't know why. No reason. I just never used g, so it felt like it was getting the short end of the stick. So I'm going to ask for a number again, but I'm going to show you here in a little bit too that we don't have to ask for numbers. We can actually ask for strings. There's just one little thing you have to do differently. It's really not that difficult. I'm going to say this time input pick any number. We're not even going to specify what. I don't care what you're picking here. We're just going to make sure it's an integer. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we've actually seen this before, but I'm just going to do a quick little test of whether or not something is an odd number or an even number. Okay. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to use an if statement. If g, and then I'm going to use that divided by symbol, but it's actually the percentage. Does anybody remember what that does? If g is divided by 2, but I use that percentage symbol. It's the remainder, yes. Okay, so if I say g divided by 2, but I'm asking for the remainder equals 0, whoops, okay, don't forget 2 equal signs on there, guys, because we're doing Boolean here, and we're not assigning a variable. If whatever we input is g divided by 2 has a remainder of 0, then something's going to happen. We are going to say print, I'm going to say g, comma, parentheses, or not parentheses, quotes, is an even number, in quotes and parentheses. Okay? So there's the first part of my Boolean conditional there. If this is true, we are going to print that whatever number we pick, say I pick 4, okay, it will print out 4 as an even number, okay? It doesn't matter what I pick, 1,422. It'll still be an even number because it's going to have a remainder of 0, right? All right, now I'm going to do an else statement. But within my else statement, guys, I want to provide another sort of branch to it. I'm going to nest another if statement inside here, okay? So in this case, if this statement is false, it's going to go down here, and it's going to do the else, okay? So what I'm going to say is, in this case, if g is greater than 100, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to print that g, quotes, is a large odd number. Okay, I'm just arbitrarily thinking that any number typed in over 100, that's a big number. It's a large number. Okay, and I can say it's an odd number without having to test for it because that's what this original if statement did. It already tested whether things were even or odd. So by the time we jump down to the else statement, it has to be an odd number because we know it would have been false for the even number. So it has to be odd. Okay. So I printed if g is greater than 100, I'm going to say, hey, g is a large odd number. Okay. Now I can put another else statement in here. So in this case, if that large number, or if that number I have is not greater than 100, I'm going to say, well, you know, it's a small number then. So I'm going to say g, quotes, is a small odd number. Those terms large and small are totally arbitrary, right? So it doesn't really matter. All right. So what I did, guys, is I nested this if statement, essentially if else statement, inside of this other one. So look at your indentation to make sure this looks proper to you guys as well. This if and else, because it's nested, has to be fully indented inside this else condition right here. Okay. Now we should be able to try that out. If we go ahead and run this, we're still going to have to go through the other stuff because we didn't hashtag that out of here. I'm just going to pick numbers that are correct here. All right, now it says pick any number. I'm going to say the number is 57, and it says 57 is a small odd number. Yay, it worked. That is correct, right? You could run it again. And if you don't like running these things again and again, guys, just make a quick little loop in there, right? And you can do that. Okay, I'm going to try it again. All right, this time I'm going to pick any number. I'm going to pick, 122. There we go. 122 is an even number. Okay, so it works out. That is a nested conditional. This if else is nested within this if else. I believe, guys, I haven't tried it out. You can keep nesting things within each other as much as you need to, but there is a limit to it. I don't remember exactly what the limit is. Actually, Python can only handle so much nesting before basically it's going to say, all right, start using some functions here. This is getting ridiculous, okay? And that's okay. We don't really, it would be sloppy programming if we just kept nesting more and more things within themselves, right? All right, there we go. That's a nested. I'm going to raise the screen up here a bit for you. All right, last one, guys, are going to be chained conditionals. From looking at your programming, I've already seen that you guys have already done some of these. But just for fun, we're going to stop using numbers for a little bit. We're going to use some strings instead, okay? Just to show you that Boolean works with strings, okay? Boolean works with strings. And this will probably come in handy for you guys when you're making your choose your own adventure story, right? Because I doubt you're going to want to make a choose your own adventure story where you're just typing in numbers, right? You probably might want to be typing in some strings and stuff. And by the way, a choose your own adventure story is just a really, really simple version of a game. Some people call them game books, actually. All right. So to make this, guys, just a little bit more elaborate and to provide a little extra feedback to you, I'm going to set some variables up front here. And at the moment, it probably will seem a little bit weird that I'm doing this, but I'm going to show you why. I'm going to set x equals 0, okay? And I'm going to set y equals 0. And I'm doing this because I want this little program we produced to have a little extra feedback to it, okay? All right. Now, I'm also going to make a loop in this case as well because I want you guys to be able to respond multiple times and have sort of different outcomes, okay? So I'm just going to make a short little range thing here, okay? So I'm going to say for I in range 5, okay? The following is going to be our loop. All right. So we're going to go through it 5 times then, right? All right, I'm going to say, I'm going to make a variable called move. And move is going to be an input, okay? And notice I didn't put integer here. The reason I didn't is because we're going to provide a string, and I want it to be a string, okay? And we're going to say which way, and that way is going to be north, south, east, or west. I'm putting that in parentheses. That's essentially for the user to understand what to type in. Which way, whoops, would you like to go? Question, and whoops, I only need one of those. Okay. So which way, north, south, east, or west, would you like to go? So what I'm prompting the user is to type in N, S, E, or W. Okay? All right. Now, we're going to do a set of chain conditionals. All right. So I'm going to say if move, I'm going to space this out a little bit just to make it a little easier on the eyes here. Okay. If move equals, okay, in this case, actually 2 equal sign because we want it to say equals. If it equals north, okay, I have to put that in quotes. It has to be a string in this case because that's what I'm prompting the user to provide, okay? If move equals north, okay, or I'm going to use an or statement. I'm doing this just so we kind of get used to some of this Boolean logic here. Or move equals, they could have capitalized it because that's what I actually requested, right? I'm just trying to account for the fact that some people are lazy and don't want to hit the shift key, right? They just want to hit a little in. All right. So in this case, I've got an if statement using some logic here, using the or. So if they type in lowercase n or capital N, right, something's going to happen. Then what's going to happen, if that is the case, is we're going to print something here, okay? We're going to talk to the user a bit. Print, you are moving north. Okay. It's kind of like a little game. Then I'm going to do something else. On the on an XY coordinate system, guys, what would you call north? That's on the y-axis. So what would that be? Up, right? Or yeah, okay. So I'm going to say y equals y plus 1. We're going to move up, and because this little game I'm creating is going to track where you're moving. It's going to track where you're moving as you go. That's why I included these little variables on here. We don't have to do that. I just thought you might like it because some of you guys are kind of interested in some games, right? All right. That's now I'm going to backspace here, so I go back with that if statement. So if we type in that, it's going to say, hey, you're moving north, and then it's going to add +1 to the y variable because I imagine north, south, east, west on a coordinate chart as being up, right, on the y-axis. All right. Now I'm going to type in elif. Okay. What elif means is it's like an else statement, but with an if combined into it. So it sort of takes that nesting and mushes it together into just a chain, okay? So else, if move equals, say, south, S, little s, or move equals big S, okay? Whoops. Got to make sure you get your colons in there as well. I'm going to print heading down south. Okay. Trying to vary up my verbiage here just to keep it from being too redundant. And in this case, I'm going to say my y equals y minus 1 because I'm going down, right? I'm subtracting on my y coordinates here. Okay. So the way this will work in Boolean is it'll first assess this. If we didn't type north, it's going to go down here and say, oh, did you type S? If we didn't type S, it's going to go down again and say, all right, did you type whatever we asked it for? Okay. Got to add a little bit to this here. Okay. Now I'm going to use, make sure I tab this over here, another else if statement. Okay. Meaning, well, if that's still false, then what if this happens? Okay. So I'm going to say else if move equals east, little e, or move equals big E. Okay. Well, then what's going to happen? I'm going to print something else. I'm going to print eastward. Okay. And now I'm going to change my x. On the east on the x-axis would be a positive, so x plus 1. All right. And if we don't type east, I need to do another else if. Okay. Or elif. I only have one more direction I can move, and that is west. So little w, or move equals big W. I'm going to print go west, young man. Because go west, young man, because evil goes. Does anybody know? Nobody knows? Go west, young man, because evil goes east. There you go. All right. And then I'm going to say x equals x, whoops, minus 1 if we go west here. All right. Now notice I don't have an else statement, and I did that purposefully. And that's because what if we typed in some string that is not north, south, east, or west? I want to account for that. So I'm going to put an else down here, and I'm going to say print, I don't understand where you want to go. Where you want to go. All right. That's just to kind of take care of it there. All right, so my chained conditional is done. The reason this is, again, this is called chain is because each condition, the false condition on each one just moves down in the chain. It doesn't move to sort of another, set of if-else statements. You can do that, but this is actually just a little bit tidier. That's essentially what the elif does, is it takes something that would normally be sort of nested and it just brings it right into line. So the way it'll read then is it'll do this. If it's false, it goes to here. 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 Okay? If this one is true, then it just does this thing that it says it's going to do. And then because we made it a loop, it goes through another iteration of the loop. Okay? Last thing is, I told you I wanted to give you feedback on where you moved. Okay? So we're going to do the following. This will be, notice this is not in the loop. We're all the way, there's no indentation at all here. I'm going to say print, you moved. I'm going to put in my x value outside of the quotes, x number of places to the east. Now, I could actually write another set of Boolean conditional here to actually say whether or not we're moving east or west, but I don't feel like doing that right now. You guys would get the point, okay? And I'm going to also say print, you moved in quotes, comma, y, comma, begin quotes, places to the north, okay, in quotes. Okay, so after I've done my moving, through, around 5 times through my loop, it's actually going to tell me what my coordinates are essentially, right? It's going to tell me what my x and y coordinates are. So we can go ahead and run that when you guys get her all done. I'll wait for a second. You'll have to go through those other things as well. But you'll get to have some fun typing either in S, E or W as opposed to just typing in some numbers. This is not a very exciting game we just produced here, but it is somewhat of a game. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and run mine and see what we got. Type the number 8. Got it. Between 4 and 8. Okay. Pick any number. I pick 5. All right. Now take a look over here, guys. I'll take my recorder off here. It said, which way would you like to go? I'm going to say I'm going to go south. Right? And I'm going to go west. I want some warmer, drier conditions. Right? And I'm going to go west again. I'm going to go south. I'm just going to go west one more time. And look at that, guys. It says you moved -3 places to the east and -2 places to the north. In other words, I went west and south, right? What's that? I don't know why. I'm just, having fun. All right, so there we go, guys. There is a nested set